Welcome, dear thrill seekers and the curious, to a look into the abyss where the ordinary meets the eerie. Join us around the campfire tonight for this next tale if you dare. On that ominous day, April 4th, 1922, Lorenz Schlittenbauer couldn't help but notice a growing stack of unattended mail at his neighbor's remote farmstead in rural Hinterkaifeck. A gnawing worry took hold of him, urging him to seek help from his fellow neighbors, Jacob Sigel and Michael Pohl. As they approached the property, a chilling realization struck them: the front door was securely locked, an eerie sign of something amiss. Ignoring the ominous atmosphere, they made their way to the barn, unknowingly stepping into a nightmare. Within the cold, dimly lit barn, they uncovered a ghastly tableau of horror. There, lifeless and arranged in a grotesque tableau, lay the victims: Victoria Gabriel, 35, her innocent daughter Casilia, 7, and Victoria's elderly parents, Andreas Gruber, 64, and Casilia Gruber, 72. The brutality of their demise was evident, each one bearing the cruel marks of multiple blows to the head, their lifeless forms eerily stacked upon one another and shrouded beneath a makeshift veil of board and hay. With trembling hearts, the trio's dread intensified. An inexplicable force urged them to proceed, to investigate the dwelling that had become a house of horrors. Their search led them to a connecting hallway that linked the barn to the main house, a corridor to further darkness. Inside that forsaken house of dread, they made a horrific discovery. There, shrouded in silence, lay the lifeless bodies of Maria Baumgartner, the family's devoted 44-year-old maid, and Victoria's innocent 2-year-old son, Joseph. The rooms that had once been filled with life were now scenes of unspeakable tragedy, bearing witness to the macabre fate that had befallen them both: death by merciless bludgeoning in the sanctity of their own beds. While the gruesome events that unfolded at the Hinterkaifeck farm remained concealed until April 4th, an eerie revelation emerged from the depths of history. It was a chilling Friday evening, the 31st of March, when tragedy had silently descended upon the family. On this fateful night, darkness had taken hold. Maria Baumgartner, stepping into her role as the family's new maid, was unaware of the malevolent forces that would soon unfold. Earlier that very afternoon, her sister had paid her a visit at the farm, confirming that all members of the household were very much alive. The sun rose on the following day, casting a pall of uncertainty over Hinterkaifeck. 2 coffee salesmen arrived at the farm, knocking on the door, but there was no response. Yet, the chimney exhaling wisps of smoke suggested an eerie presence within. It was as though someone was tending to the family's livestock, a haunting act amidst the macabre. Then, on April 4th, a repairman arrived at the homestead, but he, too, was met with a haunting emptiness. The once bustling home now lay eerily silent, devoid of life. The signs began to accumulate: stacked mail, the family's absence from church on Sunday, and the troubling absence of young Casilia from school. These ominous clues, like a trail of breadcrumbs leading into the abyss, ultimately compelled the community to embark on a journey into the barn, a journey that would reveal the horrors that had remained concealed, lurking beneath the surface. The integrity of the police investigation was immediately compromised. Hinterkaifeck was remote, and the closest police department in Munich, 45 miles away, was summoned only after Lorenz Schlittenbauer and his companions had already raised the alarm among their families and neighbors. By the time lead investigator George Gruber arrived from Munich, the crime scene had been infiltrated by a multitude of individuals. Their footprints erased vital evidence, casting a shadow over the prospects of solving the case. In those days, forensic testing was rudimentary, leaving investigators to rely on their instincts and observations. Amidst the tampered crime scene, the police formulated a chilling theory that the killer or killers had cunningly drawn each family member, one by one, out to the barn, executing them before returning to the house to claim Maria and young Joseph. The autopsies conducted on April 5, 1922, by Dr. Johann Baptist Allmuller shed light on the harrowing manner in which the victims met their demise. It was a grim revelation that would haunt the annals of history. Dr. Allmuller's findings pointed to a common, grisly thread: they had all perished from brutal blunt force trauma to the head. The weapon of choice, it seemed, was a sinister one, a pickaxe or mattock. It was a detail that sent shivers down the spines of those tasked with uncovering the truth. Additionally, the older Kazilia bore haunting evidence of strangulation marks, a chilling revelation of the torment she endured in her final moments. Yet, the most heart-wrenching discovery lay in the fate of young Kazilia, the innocent soul caught in this web of horror. Trapped beneath the lifeless bodies of her family, she faced a slow and agonizing death. Investigators found her clutching fistfuls of her own hair, her head marred by bald patches, a silent testament to the torment she endured. Dr. Allmuller speculated that her young heart finally succumbed to the combination of her injuries and the overwhelming shock that engulfed her. A series of inexplicable events cast a foreboding shadow over the Hinterkaifeck farm in the months and weeks preceding the tragic murders. These unsettling occurrences, like eerie whispers in the night, hinted at a malevolent presence. 6 months prior to the heinous act, the family's former maid had abruptly resigned. Her reason was chilling. She claimed to have heard eerie footsteps echoing from the attic, a haunting experience that convinced her the house was haunted. Neighbors, too, shared unsettling tales with the authorities. They recounted how Andreas Gruber had stumbled upon enigmatic footprints in the snow, tracks that commenced in the woods encircling the farm and led inexorably to the barn. Yet, what sent shivers down their spines was the absence of any footprints departing from the barn. A macabre theory began to take shape. An intruder had concealed themselves within the barn, perhaps even the attic, accounting for the dreaded footsteps that had plagued the previous maid's nights. Andreas himself had a disconcerting tale to tell. He disclosed that his keys had mysteriously vanished without a trace, and a perplexing newspaper, unbeknownst to him, had found its way into their home. Despite the rising sense of unease, he inexplicably declined the offer to borrow a firearm from a concerned neighbor, leaving himself and his family exposed to an impending darkness they could not fathom. Dark whispers of an unsettling nature circulated through the community, alleging a disturbing secret that would cast a shadow over the Hinterkaifeck farm. 7 years prior to the horrifying events that unfolded, Victoria and Andreas found themselves at the center of a scandalous accusation, an accusation that would prove to be their tragic prelude. Anonymous reports had surfaced, accusing the father and daughter of an unspeakable crime, incestuous relations. This dark cloud hung heavily over their heads, and soon, they found themselves standing trial, exposed to the harsh judgment of society. The verdict was a damning one. They were found guilty. Andreas was sentenced to a year of imprisonment, while Victoria faced a varying account of either 1 year or 1 month behind bars, depending on the conflicting reports that swirled. Yet, the harrowing tale didn't end there. An even more sinister thread was woven into this dark narrative, the paternity of young Joseph. While some believed that Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the man who initiated the search on April 4th, was the father of the 2-year-old, neighbors harbored a different, chilling suspicion. They whispered that Joseph might be the offspring of an incestuous bond between Andreas and his own daughter, Victoria, a secret as haunting as the events that would soon engulf the farm. Throughout the exhaustive investigation and subsequent reinvestigations into the Hinterkaifeck murders, the list of potential suspects has ballooned, surpassing a staggering count of 100 individuals. Among them was Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a figure whose presence loomed large in the early stages of the probe. One prevailing theory that gripped the initial investigation implicated Lorenz Schlittenbauer as a possible assailant. Fueling these suspicions were whispers of a romantic entanglement between Lorenz and Victoria, and the unsettling claim that young Joseph might be Lorenz's biological child. There were even allegations that Lorenz affectionately referred to Joseph as mein Buberl, which translates to my boy. Yet, amidst the swirling conjecture, counter-rumors emerged, suggesting that Lorenz harbored doubts about Joseph's parentage, suspecting that Andreas might be the child's true father. Reportedly, Lorenz contemplated lodging a complaint of incest, but he ultimately chose not to do so, heeding Victoria's wishes. In the end, the tangled web of speculation failed to definitively link Schlittenbauer to the heinous murders or establish his paternity of Joseph. As a result, authorities had no choice but to rule him out as a suspect, leaving the case mired in a fog of uncertainty. A significant source of tension enveloping the Hinterkaifeck farm revolved around its ownership dynamics. Victoria, rather than Andreas, held the reins of ownership, a fact that loomed large over their lives. This shift in ownership had occurred following the tragic death of Victoria's husband, Carl Gabriel, during the turmoil of World War I. Speculation and whispers in the community added a layer of intrigue to the tale. Some suggested that Carl harbored knowledge of Kezilia's true parentage, suspecting her to be the progeny of Andreas, which allegedly prompted him to reside with his parents for several months before his departure to war. The mystery surrounding Carl's own fate was equally enigmatic. His body had never been recovered, creating a vacuum of uncertainty that fueled speculation. Some whispered that he might have returned to the farm, driven by a vengeful intent to exact retribution and, in a cruel twist of fate, bring harm to the family. Unverified accounts even surfaced, suggesting sightings of Carl donning a Soviet Union military uniform during World War II. Yet, despite the intrigue, authorities never managed to substantiate any of these intriguing theories, leaving the truth shrouded in mystery. Following the completion of the autopsies, a bizarre and unsettling chapter unfolded in the aftermath of the Hinterkaifeck tragedy. The court physician, in a macabre turn of events, elected to remove the heads of all 6 victims, purportedly sending them to Munich for further analysis. In a curious and eerie twist, it was alleged that the skulls of the Gruber family and their devoted maid were not only subjected to medical scrutiny but also placed in the hands of clairvoyants. This unsettling decision seemingly aimed to harness the mystical in an attempt to unravel the enigma surrounding the identity of the perpetrator, or perpetrators, responsible for the gruesome massacre. For reasons obscured by the mists of history, the victims' skulls found themselves ensconced in Munich, far from their rightful resting place. As a result, when the Gruber family and Maria Baumgartner were laid to rest, it was without their heads, an eerie and unsettling postscript to their already tragic tale. The passage of time, marked by the upheaval wrought by the turmoil of World War II, rendered these skulls forever lost, their secrets destined to remain buried alongside the victims themselves. The Hinterkaifeck case has undergone multiple reinvestigations over the years, with authorities tirelessly seeking to unearth the truth that remained tantalizingly out of reach. In the year 1999, an elderly woman came forward, her words laden with the weight of decades. She claimed that her former landlord had once confessed to possessing crucial information regarding the Hinterkaifeck killings. Acting upon this tip, officials diligently pursued the lead, only to discover that the landlord had made this revelation way back in 1935. Tragically, time had dealt its inexorable hand, rendering the potential suspect mentioned in the lead long deceased. Then, in 2007, more than 8 decades after the Gruber family and their loyal maid met their grisly fate, a new chapter in the investigation unfolded. Students at the Furstenfeldbruck Police Academy harnessed modern techniques to re-examine this enduring enigma. Their exhaustive efforts narrowed down the list of suspects to a solitary figure, whom they believed had perpetrated the heinous crimes at the Hinterkaifeck farm. However, in a gesture of respect for the living relatives of the suspected killer and in reverence for the memory of the victims, the students chose not to publicly divulge the name of the person they deemed responsible for the gruesome massacre, leaving a shroud of mystery and a sense of closure forever elusive. As we draw the curtains on yet another chilling journey into the depths of the unknown, I want to extend my gratitude to all you brave souls who joined us on this expedition. Remember, the world is a tapestry woven with threads of mystery, and we're here to unravel its darkest secrets. But our quest for the enigmatic doesn't end here. So, if you hunger for more tales that send shivers down your spine, artifacts that defy explanation, and the eerie embrace of the unexplained, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. You'll be the first to know when we unearth our next chilling chronicle. Until then, stay curious, stay cautious, and never stop exploring the realms of the macabre and the miraculous. Signing off from Creepy Tales and Curiosities. Remember, the night may be dark, but there's always a story waiting to be uncovered. Good night, and pleasant nightmares.